Welcome to The Gorgeous Effect, the podcast that's about to rock your marketing world. I'm Julie Chanel, and with my co-founder, Cathy Olson, we're the masterminds behind Funnel Gorgeous and FG Funnels. We're about to drop some serious tea on how to create funnels that not only look amazing, but actually convert into customers. We'll chat mouth-watering offers, copy, design, and give you an inside look of some of our best and worst funnels. No smoke and mirrors, just real strategies that work from two ladies who have been around the funnel block. So grab your coffee or something stronger, we won't judge, and get ready to unleash the gorgeous effect on your business. It's time to show the world what you've got. Let's do this. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Gorgeous Effect. Today, we are going to dive into what is not going to work in 2026. We have a list of things we want to go over. Man, the industry is changing so fast. It is hard to keep.
Yes, I think the things we're going to talk about today were maybe even working earlier in 2025. So it's like, this isn't like stuff from, that used to work in 2018. Like this is stuff that used to work like very recently.
Yeah. All right, let's start with this one. I think this is a big one. This is actually good news, even though it may feel like hard news at first. And I think what's going to be completely done is everyone buying everything from the big marketing gurus. And we saw this start to crumble in 2025, murmurings of like big timers who were used to these, one mega launch a year, making millions of dollars. I think there's going to be less trust in the bigger guys and more in the little hyper specific businesses. And this is good news if you are specific. It is bad news if you are trying to be a generalist. And I think, people are talking about the barbell economy where like the middle is getting kind of eviscerated. And so if you are going to go super specific, you want to try to be the best in that specific niche as much as possible, or the cheapest, but not necessarily in the middle. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, it's not the best news for us because I don't know. I don't know if you consider us to be like gurus or not, but I do think that this is actually part of the reason that we are like bringing other people in, like doing this collaboration with Lindsay, and the easiest yes. And like we've done other collaborations in the past. I think that this is like part of that is that like not only are we like, kind of not, we don't know everything, not to say that we ever thought we did. But I mean, we are learning and we are pivoting, but also like paying attention to new people kind of coming up. And I think that this is good news. I think it's almost like with Instagram that says that, Instagram's like not favoring the big accounts anymore. They're giving a chance for like the little guys to kind of come up. I think it's the same thing in the digital marketing world of like giving people voices that didn't have them before, because I have heard of more people in like the last like few months that I've never heard of before than ever. Like, it's usually like the usual suspects. And now I'm feeling like, oh, do you know so and so, she's good at he's good at this, they're good at this. Like,
Well,
I'm hearing so many names.
It's the hyper specificity piece.
Yep.
I actually think we are pretty hyper specific in the general market. We're hyper specific, but I think that
That's
there's
true. Yeah.
yeah, we are very very specific. But I think that people tend to hate niching down, or they tend to hate serving one type of customer because they're afraid that means that they're going to block out a whole bunch of the market that could buy from them. And we're telling you, niche or die. Like niche or die is real, especially if you don't have any authority yet. You absolutely have to become super specific at one thing because of the way people are expecting personalization. On ChatGPT yesterday, I used the Pulse, that little thing that curates. And I know that they're trying to make it so that like you wake up in the morning, you don't need to go on the news or you don't need to go on social media. You just look at the Pulse and it curates up news. But it's actually super helpful. It was so personalized to everything I had been talking to Chad about the other day. It like served up relevant news articles, and that level of customization and personalization, the market is going to have no appetite for anything that doesn't personally solve their problems. That's what AI is doing. And that's why hyper specificity is going to be so important. No more general. That's gone.
100%.
That's not going to work.
I
Yeah,
also think it's from being burned by, like
true.
people who were just sort of famous for one thing and then now they're teaching this. It's like, well, what do they even know about that? Like, so I think there
Right.
was like they're actually not the best solution, which w was starting to like why the market was actually looking for hyper specific things, which to our, defense is like we don't teach anything we haven't done ourselves. So like we're not the type of guru that's just like, oh, everyone's talking about this, now we should talk about this. Like it's not our that's not the way we work. We do stuff first and then we realize we break it and test it and see if it works. And then if it doesn't work,
Yeah.
and then we recommend it, right? Which is a totally different way of doing business. But I think that it's almost a backlash against, a bunch of people who shouldn't be teaching it anyway. So guess what I
Yeah,
mean.
for sure. Um, the second thing that I don't think is going to work in 2026, which, you know, probably people will be like, duh, it hasn't worked for a while, but um, warm traffic only and warm traffic only sales and referrals. Uh, that feeling of like, well, I can just like serve my little niche. I don't need to like bust out. I don't need to get cold traffic. I'm just going to like build my business on, a warm little network. I don't know, man. I think people are going to really need to understand how to convert cold traffic. And I think, again, that kind of starts with that specificity because, I'm just going to use a quick example and then I'm going to pass it over to you. A lot of people know that I've decided to embark on, getting sheep, which is like a completely new business endeavor for me. And I'm having to look for all of these gurus in the sheep economy, right? In the economy. And I hired a sheep shearer directly off of ChatGPT because I was asking for a sheep shearer that also does hooves. And most of them don't. And it gave me one name and I called her and I hired her on the spot. And I thought, man, that specificity made it more likely that I was going to find someone I had no idea, right? Cold traffic than if I had just looked for a general, sheep shearer, which is already pretty specific as it is.
Sheep shearer. Why is it like so hard to say?
I know. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's like the problem is it's like even your warm traffic, how warm are they anymore? Like I think that's the problem is that everyone's cooling off a bit, and so you're having to diversify, period, which I think is just that's just kind of the way everything is going. Like the old reliables don't necessarily work anymore, and you have to, and you should have already been doing this to be fair. Like, but I do see that people are kind of going back to like, oh well, I just have my retainer clients, or I just have like these clients, or they'll refer someone else, or they're just like looking like in their same pool, and that pool is dwindling just because of the way that things are going.
Well, a lot, yeah, especially if you serve any B2B market,
Right.
there's a lot of businesses that are going out of business. So if you serve a B2B market, like the pool of people available is shrinking as well. That's
Right.
another reality.
Yeah. So
And
it's not a sustainable, like yes, keep, creating, being loyal and all that, but don't put all of your eggs in that basket.
yeah, and how are you going to get cold traffic, right? Honestly, if you are not setting yourself up to be found by Gemini, ChatGPT, all the big ones, like that's got to be a focus. I think that's got to be a focus for us. I mean, we have been in the land of so much social traffic, and I'm not going to say that social traffic is not going to work in 2026. I'm not going to say that. But what's not going to work in 2026 is ignoring search traffic. And I think for a long time, a lot of us could get away with that because like blogging had its heyday, then it kind of died. SEO was like a thing, but it was like, use that for, local businesses or, but now with people using chatbots, like you cannot afford to not be recommended by a chatbot by searching the web. So that's definitely something to keep in mind as well as you're looking for those
I
those new
keep
pockets.
Yeah, I keep getting told that like chat is always recommending us FG funnels. Like I've heard like 3 or 4 times in the last couple months that people were like searching something about that and they recommended FG funnels as a software and I'm like and specifically, not high level, like specifically FG funnels.
That's
And
cool.
I really do think it's because you and I are in there so much. It's like apparently FG funnels is a thing because I hear about it all the time. I don't know if that's the case, but
I don't, well, I mean, that goes back to like how when chat recommended me, it like, it claims that it does that, but I don't think it does. I think it's just based on, I think it's based on search, right? And it's based on whatever it was trained on when it was trained. But I think we have a lot of people that talk about FG funnels on the web. Like there's a lot of YouTube videos, there's a lot of blogs, and I think that's probably why, because there's just like a lot of content
yeah.
from a lot of different sources.
Yeah, I know. I was just kind of
I It would be
kidding,
so
but
fun if you could be like, hey,
but
chat,
it's
don't forget.
it's like, well, there's two people that are obsessed with me that talk to me all the time, and apparently this is a thing. No, yeah, I know that's definitely not a thing, but that's even more of a reason to be, doing the cold traffic thing, right? Is to getting more
Yeah.
people talking about you and stuff, and not staying in your little bubble.
I had someone ask me, what is the single fastest way to convert a cold audience? And I think it is the live webinar because if you think about a prospect or a customer, right? They start out cold, then they become warm, then they become hot. And then I have like hottest and then client, right? Or customer. And when I track that trajectory, sometimes to go from cold to client is like years. Sometimes it's fast. But the fastest way to take somebody cold and turn them into a customer is through a webinar. And that's like that one presentation, that 1 week funnel that really warms them up quickly. And I don't think anything else does as good of a job. Now, that does not mean you have to do a webinar, although I do recommend it. But if you're not going to do a webinar, you're going to need to create some sort of sales system where you are having touch points with your cold traffic. And I was telling a client today, I was like, your goal isn't to turn a cold customer or a cold prospect into a client on any given day when you're doing sales, emails or commenting or DMs. And, in Easiest Yes, which is the program that we're doing with Lindsay, we're going to explain that your goal is to just make them to go from cold to warm, and then from warm to hot, and then from hot to hotter, and then from hotter to client. And I think once I explained that, people were like, oh, that's so much easier. Because, if you say to someone like, okay, outbound, go find people, you have this idea in your head, oh, I've got to make them a client. That's like step 7, maybe just say hi and introduce yourself, start there. But a webinar can speed that process up. So, relying on just your warm audience in 2026 is not going to work. All right. What else? What else is not going to work in 2026?
Well, treating social platforms like a full funnel, like a stand store or, link in bio, something like that, definitely not going to work. Obviously, that we haven't been doing that in a long time.
Mm.
But it's really just top of funnel now, like
Okay,
social
so
media.
why? What's your reasoning for saying like that's not going to fly anymore?
Because of almost everything else we've been talking about, but really what you just said, warming traffic up, like it's people were much more trusting or just they were using social to warm, but I think now there's like that the gap between free and paid is bigger than it ever has been, the
Mm.
leap, right? And so to just have a link, in a stand store of like buy my PDF or buy my, which like I know we're kind of like laughing about, but this is a big old thing. Like people are still doing this on all over social media. And I'm like, or buy from a newsletter or something like that, and not needing, thinking they don't need a full funnel. That's
Mm.
a huge mistake because I think people do need more nurturing now. They do need more trust building. They do need more problem solving, right? Like they need connecting the awareness levels to the dots of like what you do. And you just can't have these platforms anymore, or like a Thrive cart or whatever, where you just have a couple paragraphs and then a buy button. Like it's just not going to
Yeah.
work. It's not going to fly in 2026. And honestly, it hasn't really been working that well, but people have been getting around it. And now even more than ever, I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah, not to beat a dead horse about the webinar, but when people come to us and ask about webinars, or if I'm working with private clients, I'm like, you don't understand how many tiny little pieces have to be put into play for a webinar funnel, like that full experience. And, people think, oh, I just do a webinar and then I send a couple emails, but it's like the text messaging and what's on the opt-in page and what's on the opt-in thank you page and how you position this. And it is a fully choreographed experience for your customer that is really necessary in order to get cold traffic to really be paying attention, be aware that you're running a sale, purchase, all of that. And you're not going to get that. I mean, the only exception would be if you're willing to do DM sales. If you, social media, you can work someone in the DMs. But again, think about your attention level when you're in the DMs. Like, are you doing a million things? Are you watching TV? What are you doing? And so if you're just trying to close in the DMs, you have to think about the fact that like that's really maybe just the top of the funnel. Like maybe the next step is to get their email address, get them on the phone, like pull them into a Zoom call. And then you have that undivided attention for, 15, 30 minutes. And yeah, so it really is top of funnel. It's not full funnel anymore.
Yeah. So I don't know how much longer like Stand Store and stuff like that are going to be in business, to be fair. Like, I just don't see them. I think they work on a referral model. They got some other thing kind of going on, or they're just like a first step. Like, I think a lot of times they're just the stepping stone, just like, MailChimp or whatever, right? They're just like the baby step. But I think that like real businesses who are going to want to like build lasting legacy businesses, they have to get off of those things and start to really build out full funnels.
Yeah. Okay. The next one, which I think, you know, maybe people will like it, maybe people will hate it, but inaccessible teachers, no access going away. Not going to fly in 2026. And this is good news and bad news because I think there was a time where it was like everybody was like, let's get rid of one-on-one coaching. Let's get rid of sales calls. Let's get rid of anything that requires any human connection whatsoever, And it was
Just
like,
collect money and then we'll
let's
just
just
be off
collect
on our
money and
yacht.
live on the beach. Yeah. But you know, because of AI, like, yes, AI can help you do more at scale and do more faster, and coaching clones are really cool. And we love all those tools are great. But the only thing that is not truly scalable is our attention and connection. And in the law of supply and demand, that inherently will become more valuable. And if you can't, make money just selling passive courses because, you can just learn from ChatGPT how to do something, you don't need a course, the thing that you're still going to be able to sell is your attention, your time, and your energy. And that's bad news and good news, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, but I think it goes both ways. It's not just because people are looking for more help and handholding and stuff, or because they can just get simple answers from chat or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
they're looking for like more human connection, but I think that's also what builds businesses is that like building communities, people who are there for you, who you like have loyalty to. So it's like on both sides.
Mhm.
It's like it's not doesn't only serve the client or the customer, right? It
Right.
actually serves you as your business because then they are more likely to buy from you again. They're going to, they're going to stay in your ecosystem, right? When they have a connection with you, that's not going to be as easily broken with no one, no matter what happens with AI, they're still going to want connection to their people and their friends and want to be part of the community. So I think it serves, it's
Exactly.
a win-win on both ways, even though it's not fun to say because it's not like that soft life or whatever, right? Of like actually showing up and talking to people. But I don't think it's a bad thing. I think we need it too. I think that like people who are teaching teachers need their students just as much. And we need the feedback and we need the loop. Like, because I've been seeing this happen with all these programs. Like, they got rid of all this stuff or they threw some coaches in, like, as, proxy. And then, like, they lost connection with their people. And then they had to
Yeah.
fire all the coaches because they were costing too much money and not, not producing the way that they did. And they're all having to like descale their business and get back in and dig their hands in the dirt and plant some plants. And so I see that
Yeah.
happening more, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing.
I agree. I agree. I like it. I mean, I've never gotten out of the garden in the dirt. Like I've always loved that. I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
I think that's what
But
makes
but
me
then that's
a better
interesting, and it's not
teacher.
because you didn't want to. I mean, it's not because that you're like, I would love to just waste all my time talking to everyone all day. It's not that you didn't want the freedom. I think you understood the power of connection on both sides, from you feeding you and hearing, personally and knowing your clients. But also, I think that like you've seen this like the whole time, I think.
Yeah, and I mean everything is a trade-off. For me, 20, 25 hours a week, maybe Yeah, I would say 20, 25 hours a week talking with clients. For some people, that would be like, oh my gosh, you don't have time freedom. I would argue I do have time freedom. Maybe not as much as someone running the soft life, but the advantage for the client and the advantage for me too in that I'm a better coach and it also keeps me so much sharper than like you said if I just like took my hands off the wheel and didn't get dirty in anyone else's business. I would have so much less experience to be able to give advice from. So I think you can look at it one way or the other way. The thing that's nice though is like um that you should absolutely leverage AI tools to buy back some time. Like at the beginning of 2020, or actually mid 2025, when I realized how much chat was helping me accelerate some of my coaching, I literally opened up my calendar to my clients. Like they'd never had that before. And I was like, here's my calendar, book a call anytime you want. And I've had no trouble with that because I have more time because AI bought back so much time and I decided to go ahead and gift a portion of that time to my clients. And it's only made things better.
That's
So
really cool, and I think that's why your digital insiders is doing well because
yes, probably.
because you're there, you know. Like I think
Yeah.
so. While all the other coaches were trying to, like farm it out, you were like, "Hey, not only am I not gonna like throw you on some other coach, I'm actually just gonna open up my calendar and you can just talk to me." Like,
Yeah.
and so I think that you're going the right way, and I hope that other people take this
Other
advice
people follow
because
suit. Yeah.
yeah, because this is the way. This is the way from
Yeah.
now on for 2026 and beyond.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up today. But if you have been listening, this is the recap. Things that are not going to work. Being general, buying from the bigger guys. Everything's going to go hyper specific and personalized. Number two, just depending on your warm traffic and referrals, you're going to have to figure out a way to take someone who is cold and turn them into a customer. Number three, stop treating your social platform like a full funnel. It's not going to work. It's just simply the start of the conversation. And then number four, stop trying to figure out how to buy back all your time and not have any access to people since accessible teachers, influencers, and coaches will be more in demand than those who aren't. So, as always, if you like this podcast, please let us know. Hit us up in the DMs if there's anything you want us to talk about at Funnel Gorgeous on Instagram, and we will talk to you soon.
Hey, gorgeous. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And if you're thinking, okay, but what now? We've got you. So just for listening today, we want to give you a gift. Head over to learngorgeous.com. We're going to grab some free resources, free trainings, this month's specials, and everything you need to keep going. Until next time, make it gorgeous.